This is Inspection Gadget, our system for collaboratively analyzing collections of documents by exploring the relationships between documents and entities contained within, collecting evidence from those documents, as well as creating hypotheses to contain that evidence and present a narrative. So here's the interface of Inspection Gadget. This is the overview page. On the left, we see the list of entities in the document set, as well as all the documents in the collection. And on the middle, we see a graph of relationships between entities and documents that you can drag and explore relationships. Next up is the document page. We see the list of documents as well as the contents when you select them. You can see the entities that are inside of the document, and you're able to view and create evidence from this document. This is the entities page. We see selected entities, and we can see which entities are related to those that are selected, as well as which documents are related to those. Here's the hypothesis page. We are able to create hypotheses to collect evidence and present theories in a narrative format. So the example scenario is that 3 analysts used Inspection Gadget to analyze a set of documents primarily from the city of Alderwood's local newspapers. They developed a hypothesis linking George Prado, a local apple farmer, to the spreading of a chemical agent called lewisite. And we are now being tasked with using Inspection Gadget to continue their analysis and to determine George Prado's role in this chemical agent. So our first investigative step is to discover if these apples are causing any incidents in any other documents or causing any harm anywhere else. So we'll switch to the Documents tab to find documents that have apples. So we'll search for the filter, we'll type in apples, and we'll find that the port incident document is one of the first ones. So we'll go ahead and read that. This document describes an incident where apples from the state of Washington caused dock workers burns and respiratory illnesses, which we recognize from the lewisite symptoms. So we'll add a piece of evidence from this document by selecting that quote, adding the excerpt, and then creating the evidence with a name and a date. The document also says that the ship's captain has ties to a place called Parazuela and a rebel group named Shining Future, which we will further investigate. We think that this may come into play later, but we're not certain, so just in case, we'll add a piece of evidence for this quote tying the ship to Parazuela and Shining Future. So now we'll further investigate Parazuela and Shining Future. So we'll click those entities in the Documents tab here, and we'll go to the Overview tab to see which documents they're related to. So there are many documents, including some that seem to indicate that Shining Future might be a terrorist group in South America, but we'll go ahead and read them one by one. And so first we'll start with the Advertisements page. So we'll click on it in the Overview and switch to the Documents tab to read it. In this document, we see that a local Alderwood apple farm also sells Parazuelan fruit. So we're interested in finding out more about this particular farm. We want to know about its owner, what else they do. And so we'll follow the Route 23 entity here to see if we can find more information about it. So we'll click the Route 23 entity and go to the Entity tab. In this Entity tab, we can see that related to Route 23 are various names and places, but there's also George Prado, our person of interest. So we'll add his name to the entity selection as well. And now we can see a list of documents related to both of them. We'll click on this Must Relate to All Selected Entities checkbox in the Documents panel, and now we'll see that there's only one document that contains both of them, this document called Busy Summer for Local Orchards. So we'll click on that to read it. This document shows that Fresh Fruit Farms, the farm with the Parazuelan connection, is owned by George Prado. And reading further, we see that he says, "We are busy keeping the store open and selling our summer crops. If things go the way they are, I'd say our future is as shiny as our apples." Now, this is a fairly solid link between George Prado and the Shining Future rebel group, and so we'll select this quote and add it as evidence. So now we're ready to create a hypothesis to contain our preliminary evidence. So we'll go to the Hypothesis tab and we'll create a new hypothesis. We'll name it something like George Prado is supplying Shining Future with lewisite, and add our preliminary evidence to it that we just collected. Now, we can also rearrange this evidence in order to create the best narrative to support our case, and then we can continue to investigate documents and add evidence to this hypothesis. Skipping ahead in the analysis process, we now see the final hypothesis that we developed for this task, that George Prado and Shining Future is amassing lewisite for use outside of the US. We've presented the hypothesis in a way that any analyst can come and pick up and continue because the evidence contained within is presented in the way that provides the strongest case, as well as each piece of evidence then contains the documents and quotes that it came from. And so any person who can see this hypothesis is able to understand our analysis of this data set and of this hypothesis. This has been our tool inspection gadget. Thank you.